Hello, good morning, and welcome to a slightly delayed morning bulletin this morning. We're going to pretend that the reason for that is Jurgen Klopp's contract potentially being extended and definitely not the technical difficulties that we had when we tried to do this an hour or so ago. But it has definitely, Andrew Beasley alongside me, I should say, as well, it has definitely, Andrew, been sort of worked out in a nice way for us, because it means that we can now react to the news that Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp is open to extending his contract at Anfield. We don't know exactly the details of that. It's obviously far from being confirmed yet, but simply the fact that it seems like he has suggested to FSG and the club's hierarchy that he might be open to the possibility. It certainly wasn't always the case that was going to happen.
No, I mean, it's fantastic news, isn't it? It's getting hard to keep track of all the great stuff that's happening if you're a Liverpool fan at the moment. You know, win against City in the semi-final, beat United, beat Everton, beat Villarreal, and now possibility of a contract extension for Klopp. It sort of thought like maybe it could happen. In the past we said things like, "Oh, we wish he'd come to the club sooner," and all these sorts of things. Well, obviously he can't do anything about that, but he could extend his stay beyond the contract date of 2024. So, I mean, if he does that, he's going to be one of Liverpool's longest serving managers. I think he'll probably go past Bob Paisley with an extension. He might not reach sort of Shankly's tenure, but he could easily be one of the longest serving managers the club's ever had. The team is going great guns, got a chance of winning a quadruple. I mean, whatever happens there, the team is fantastic. If they can secure the manager for beyond more than the next 2 years, then who knows what they can achieve in that time, really.
Yeah, I think that's a really vital point, isn't it? We've sort of thought about and spoken about on here and on various other platforms in terms of kind of the structure that he's got in place, the fact that he's brought in certain people around him. You've got Pep Lijnders there, you've got certain people that he's brought in terms of the medical side and all of that sort of thing. So you kind of always thought that if he was to go in 2024, then maybe it wouldn't be too much of a drop-off, because hopefully everyone else would kind of stay there. But of course, keeping the man himself, that's just another level of positive altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't matter who comes in to replace him whenever that is, that there will be a slight drop off. It's inevitable. So if Liverpool can prolong that from happening for as long as they can, then clearly that's a good thing. And obviously, with one eye on the future, I mean, nobody knows at this point exactly when Guardiola's going to leave Manchester City. But it must have occurred to them that, well, if we can keep Klopp beyond when Guardiola leaves City, then maybe we've got a chance to pick up some trophies, because they'll probably have a drop-off, just as Liverpool will when Klopp leaves. So if he can be the sort of last man standing of the two, then it could work out for the Reds in terms of securing some silverware, while City are sort of readjusting to their life in the post-Guardiola era.
Yeah, I mean, there's been all that talk of rivalries, and is it the greatest rivalry? I suppose if both of them were to extend it, it could become that. Certainly, it could obviously continue in the kind of not necessarily the kind of traditional form, but if these two teams can keep the managers, you'd imagine, given the money and the financial situation that both are in, the fact that they're both going to be in the Champions League continuously over the next few seasons, you would imagine it's all kind of set up for Liverpool and City, the best two club sides in the world right now, I would say, to kind of continue that dominance, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always sort of hard to forecast when teams are eventually going to stop being at the very top. You wouldn't have thought, growing up in the 90s, you wouldn't have thought Man United would ever sort of fall away, but they have. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they're the two best teams in the world. I mean, if you look at any of the sort of rating systems, Club ELO or 538 or whatever, they're not just the top two. They're the top two by quite a margin. And with their current managers in charge, it's hard to see how that changes, really. So yeah, if they both extend, then perhaps it will become the greatest rivalry of the sort of English football history, really, because it might not go on as long as sort of Ferguson versus Wenger, but the standard is above anything that United and Arsenal served up, certainly for the majority of their time as sort of direct rivals. They were very good teams at their peaks, but Liverpool and City have gone past that and do look capable of sustaining their levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Just part of the reason why it would be so exciting if they can come to an agreement. The fact that Klopp is open to it suggests that probably it will happen at some point. You wouldn't have thought that it would be too hard to make that happen if Liverpool and he both want it. But sort of in terms of that kind of desire to extend, probably the reason we haven't seen him say anything, and obviously he's not said anything publicly at this moment. It's just something that Ian Doyle at the Echo understands at this moment. But I suppose what you would say is in terms of that desire, it's always kind of felt like he would have something no matter what happens for the rest of this season. He'd still have a little bit of unfinished business at Liverpool. It kind of feels no surprise, even though it's obviously brilliant news and we're obviously both very happy about it. It doesn't really feel like a surprise to me. It kind of felt like this at some point was probably going to come out.
Yeah, I know what you mean about unfinished business. I mean, it's sort of unfortunate. It's good in a way they've got this rivalry with Manchester City, but clearly a Liverpool team this good at almost any point in history would have won far more trophies. So, Klopp may feel that, well, I've done incredibly well. I've got one Premier League, I've got one Champions League, hopefully more to come this season. But it isn't actually all that much for how good the team is. And, it's not their fault. City are an incredible team, but he may feel that there's things to do. And of course, 2024, as much as it's 2 years away, it isn't that far away, because obviously if he didn't extend, well, you get through next season, then all of a sudden you're looking at his final season, and it's like, well, you need to start thinking about who's coming in and how does that affect the players and all these sorts of things. So just prolonging the need to do any of that is great. And, if Klopp is happy to stay, then obviously Liverpool and all the fans are happy to keep him and hopefully win a few more big prizes in the years ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest reasons for me that I always thought he might extend beyond 2024 was the fact that it was almost a missed season. Obviously, the season did count, and the thing that happened with Addison and all the rest of it towards the end to get Liverpool into the top four, obviously we want all of those things to count. But without fans, it did kind of feel like a bit of a missed opportunity, really, for Jurgen Klopp. It would have felt to me in that sense as well that it would have been unfinished business. And he's kind of admitted that himself in the past, really. He said his energy waned last season for obvious reasons. It was, a really difficult campaign for Liverpool, but no surprise this season things have gone very, very differently. Fans are back, no injuries. Liverpool are in a perfect position in pretty much every way they could possibly be. It's no surprise really that he possibly has found the energy to go on a little bit longer. You can certainly understand why he might be feeling a little bit different about staying compared to, say, what he would have been sort of 12, 13 months ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even as fans, we feel invigorated compared to last season. So, what it must be like for him, is incredible. I mean, the bond with the fans is everything at Liverpool, between the manager and the fans. It always has been, basically, since Shankly. It's been so important. And not having that for a year must have been terrible for Klopp. Never mind everything else that was going on in the world and, in his personal life and whatnot. So to have that back, yeah, I can see, it's reinvigorated me. So it must have done wonders for him. But yeah, just to sort of go back, yeah, winning the league with no fans present can't have been as good as it should have been. And he will obviously want to correct that before he leaves if he possibly can. And obviously extending his contract will give him, further opportunities to do that. And obviously the way things are going, you wouldn't rule them out from doing it. It's going to be hard this season, but obviously the years ahead, certainly going to have more opportunities to try and win a Premier League title with fans present to enjoy it and have a parade and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more bits before we finish then. One of them is a bit of an abstract impact, really, but I suppose more in the sort of longer term view. It makes sense for Liverpool to get this done and sort out his future from a transfer perspective almost as well, because if you're a player that might be signing in the summer or perhaps beyond, if there is these stories out there that Jurgen Klopp might potentially be staying a little bit longer, if hopefully in the summer or possibly beyond this is agreed and he does confirm that. I suppose if you're a player on the outside, you probably don't need too many reasons, let's be honest, to join Liverpool at the moment, but probably Jurgen Klopp being there for an extra season or two or whatever it might be, that's probably no bad thing either.
No, that's a very good point. And also you have to think about the players who are at the club already. I mean, obviously some key players are on contracts beyond 2024, but the original front three, all of them, as we well know, are out of contract next year. Well, do they think twice about extending if they think Klopp's going? Maybe they do, maybe they don't, who knows? But him being there for longer can only help in that. in securing their futures, because they'll think, well, it's been great so far, so I'll stay here and I'll do well with Klopp. And as you say, it can't hurt for encouraging players from overseas as well, or other clubs rather, to say, yeah, okay, well, if Klopp's going to be there, then the good times should continue at Liverpool, so I'll go there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that links to the final point I wanted to make as well, and sort of what it means for FSG. I think it would be fair to say that getting Jurgen Klopp on board is probably the best decision that they've made. They've certainly made far, far worse ones than that, to say the very least, during their time at Liverpool. But I suppose for them as well, if they can get Jurgen Klopp to stay, it's not a guarantee of success. It's not a guarantee of anything, really, but it's certainly as close to a guarantee as you can get for sort of their model, the way that they work. Jurgen Klopp is just the perfect person to implement that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the mistakes they've clearly made over the years, FSG, on the football side of things, pretty much since Klopp came in, they've been near enough flawless. And obviously that will continue if they can secure him over a longer period. And obviously he's a good manager for them in that he's not all about spending money. I mean, obviously, Liverpool are not a poor club in the grand scheme of things, but compared to some of the teams they're competing with, they are relatively underfunded. So he's a good manager for them in that sense as well, in that he doesn't, he's not complaining in the press about needing more money or more players and things like that. From the day he came in, he was like saying that he thought the squad was better than most people did, and he got them to 2 cup finals, and it's only sort of gone on from there. So he's a great manager for FSG, and obviously from a Liverpool fans' perspective, FSG look better for bringing him in and then being able to secure him for, it'll already have been 9 years. Looks like we're heading into double figures if this goes through, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Superb news for Liverpool this morning that Jurgen Klopp is open to extending his contract beyond 2024. I suppose the next question we'll come to in due course is how long the extension might be for, how many years that will be. But of course, we'll cross that bridge as and when we come to it. The good news for now is just it might be 1, it might be 2, it might be more, but whatever it is, certainly Liverpool fans will be excited. Plenty more reaction to come on the Liverpool Echo's website and also over on liverpool.com too. Plenty more stuff on Blood Red. I'm sure we will touch on it on tomorrow's podcast as well. For now, though, the good news for Liverpool just keeps on coming, and we'll see you very soon.